going to plug in the little microphone, and then hopefully we're all tickety-boo. Let's see. Let me know. Tim, I know you're holding on, or at least I hope you are. I just want to get our friends on Facebook and YouTube sorted, because they will be super receptive to all of this, and I don't want them to miss out on any of your words of wisdom. Right, hello, I can see that Facebook is back. Apologies, yes, all good, say my team. Right, let's crack on. So, Karmacist, here you are. Such a cool name, don't you think? Karma, I guess, like, you know, yen, what is it? Zen, yin and yang. Well, anyway, we're joined by Tim. Hello.
Hello, Liz.
I am sorry to keep you waiting. Where are you?
I'm not sat on a bed of nails, and I'm not anywhere tropical, and I'm not on my side. So,
okay.
I'm in London, I'm afraid.
Well, you can be you're the straight guy then in all of this. But you know, you have such an extraordinary background. I mean, I could just talk to you forever, actually, about your background, because everything that you've done to date has been so fascinating. As kind of one journalist and broadcaster to another, I have such respect and admiration. Would you like to just fill in my community here a little bit about your journey and what brought you here?
Yes, I mean, it's fair to say I wasn't expecting to one day find myself chatting to Liz Earle on an Instagram live. It's more likely over the course of my career I've been talking to people like Jeremy Paxman or Emily Maitlis. So I
oh my goodness! So I'm probably going to be a real soft touch. Can I ask you to turn up just a fraction? Do you think you can dial up the sound or not? I've pushed you to the max on mine.
Okay. I've got an ear pod in. Is that
that might delay. You might not need an ear pod actually. Usually my guests just talk. Do you want to try it without? Because
let's do that.
That might give us a wee bit more sound.
Is that better?
It is better. Yeah, we're getting thumbs up from Facebook. Excellent.
Good. Who needs Apple, eh?
So you're a real kind of hardcore journalist. So nothing I could throw at you is going to faze you, yeah?
Oh, I don't know about that, but I was a BBC trainee. I was a journalist at Newsnight. I moved to current affairs. I used to do quite hardcore stuff like trying to get people off death row or working undercover in Belfast to expose racism there.
Wow.
And then I kind of slightly moved to taking on social issues, but trying to... I never liked just sort of sitting on the sidelines. So I wanted to try and change things and make things more inspiring. So, you know, the documentary I'm most proud of over the years was I wanted to highlight the sort of disgraceful way in which we treat elderly people, and rather than just kind of reinforce their sense of victimhood, I brought all these lonely old people who I'd been interviewing in old people's homes and tower blocks, and I brought them together and turned them into the world's oldest rock group, the Zimmers. And
the Zimmers, don't you love that? What was their average age?
Their combined age was over 3,000. Our lead singer, Alf, was 90, and he sang The Who's My Generation. So Alf, bless him, belted out I Hope I Die Before I Get Old, and did his best Roger Daltrey, and became a kind of global sensation, ending up going to #1 on YouTube and ending up on Jay Leno alongside George Clooney. Not that any of them had the faintest idea who he was.
I love that so much. That's absolutely epic. So I guess from there, did you think about your own mortality and aging well and longevity? Is that kind of the spark of an idea?
For me, it was more sort of through the sort of what we'd say the mental health journey is now. So I was doing this kind of quite hardcore stuff, but I'd always, I guess, been prone to periods of depression or anxiety, and I guess some of those sort of childhood demons come back. And like in the old days, it was quite hard to, especially as a bloke, to talk about that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I was always trying out different things, the conventional, the less conventional, to see what might lift the serotonin a bit, decrease the stress levels. So I was always kind of, on the one hand, doing the kind of current affairs, but on the other hand, exploring different things that are out there, different forms of therapies, different nutrition, that sort of thing. And, I ended up particularly taking on the focus of trying to get men to be more honest about themselves. And I thought, I'm just going to have to lead by example. So I wrote a book, Who Stole My Spear? I did a show called Men's Hour on Radio 5, worked quite a lot with the charity Mind, and doing documentaries around mental health and what can make us more robust. And then ultimately that sort of came together, that sort of journalism, mental health and well-being, when I decided to do a podcast for the Beeb, trying to debunk some of the wellness myths. I guess this is where our worlds kind of...
Yeah, that's where we collide, okay.
Yes, and I just thought, I can't resist walking past Whole Foods without spending, the GDP of a small country in there.
Crazy amounts of money. Yeah.
Is it worth it? Is it not? What works? So I launched All Hail Kale, which was a sort of discerning look at wellness trends. I'm open, but I'm probably like you, very skeptical at the same time. Yeah. And that sort of brought me to this world. And then through that, I came across some fascinating stuff, which I know you've looked at, around the kind of the gut-mind link. And one of the most extraordinary things was interviewing a scientist who'd been running trials with mice. And there were two types of mice. One is naturally very shy, keeps the corners of the cage, doesn't like to go out, and is actually very intimidated by steps. And the other was a kind of gregarious mouse, bounded around the cave, didn't care what was going on. And they did what's known as a fecal microbial transplant, essentially a poop swap. And they put in each other's stomachs each other's poop. Not they, the scientists. And the most extraordinary thing happened. Within a couple of weeks, they'd essentially swapped personalities.
Wow.
The once shy mouse had become gregarious and bounded around the cave and took on stairs, and the cocky mouse had actually retreated to the kind of the corners of the cage. And for me, that was just extraordinary how a change in gut can have such an impact on your mood. And we have a sense that, a huge proportion of our serotonin, that sort of feel-good hormone, is in our gut. So I came across that. And then I also came across epigenetics. And, I guess we've always assumed, you look at your parents, you think, oh, God, I've got this coming now.
That's it, yeah.
And I'm doomed. There's nothing I can do, But the idea that genes can be switched on and off by lifestyle, and that, as much as maybe sort of 70% of our health and well-being comes down to gene expression, and that this power resides in our hands through our lifestyle. So, you might have a genetic predisposition for diabetes or depression or something like that, but you don't necessarily trigger that if you live in a certain way. And things like diet and meditation and exercise and stress, we all know, play a huge part in that. And then those came together for me, that kind of the sort of the gut-mind link and epigenetics, when I was sort of doing research and came across Nutrigenomics. And I just thought, God, this is amazing. The idea that you can help regulate your genes through the nutrients that you take in, and this sort of gene expression, which is probably the most powerful thing we can do to affect our health. If this is affecting maybe 70% of our well-being, and some say about half of that comes down to diet. If you can affect how your genes are expressing and create optimal states or avoid bad health states through nutrients, that's incredibly powerful. And I thought, okay, I can't. Like, my natural tendency, as I said, is to jump in a bit, whether it's forming old people's rock bands or all sorts. So I thought, I'm going to jump in here. And I found that an amazing Harvard nutritional psychiatrist, Dr. Uma Naidu, a brilliant Stanford epigeneticist, Professor Vittorio Sebastiano, brought them together and realized that there was a way to take these kind of ancient herbs, these herbs that we've been turning to for 60,000 years, sort of natural medicine, and explore how these herbs and spices can help regulate particular genes associated with conditions. And for me, I was like, that's amazing. Let's do that. Let's bring this to the masses. And Calm Assist was born.
Calm Assist. I love the name. I mean, I've got some of the things here. I actually brought them out to Kenya with me, and this is what we're going to be talking about, Calm Assist. I'm really fascinated by Dr. Naidoo as a nutritional psychiatrist, over at Harvard Medical School. How common is that? I mean, how, most psychiatrists, are they just involved in the conventional big pharma drug world? I mean, how open are psychiatrists now becoming to the nutritional world?
It's a really good question. So she is something of a pioneer in the States, and she said for a long time, and she's a trained psychiatrist, she's also a nutritionist and a chef, she said it was just not seen as part of the mainstream. Psychiatry tends to, we look at talking cures and we look at pharmacological cures. But, there's been mounting evidence that you can improve your mood, improve a variety of mental conditions, things like OCD, ADD, anxiety, stress, obviously the menopause, slightly separate to that, through what you eat. And, we've seen how people put on Mediterranean diets and supplements it with things like fish oil, find that there is a decrease in depression rates. And she, looks at individual examples and finds that, for example, blueberries can help with the after effects of trauma. Salami can help bring on depression.
It's just extraordinary, isn't it? I mean, it just sounds so kind of just, I mean, not really woo-woo, but it just sounds a bit kind of flaky and meh. And then, you get somebody like a top academic at Harvard saying, no, this is clinical stuff. This is actually working. How do they get funding for that? Because most of the funding, as as a journalist, is coming from big pharma, and particularly with medical trials. And there's no money to be made in saying eat more blueberries.
No.
So what's going to happen there? Do you think? I mean, how is this being sidelined? Is it being fast tracked? Is it being ignored?
Yeah, I mean, and I don't think she's in the pocket of Big Blueberry either. So I'm not sure the blueberry lobby's quite up there with.
It's probably not quite as powerful, is it, as some of the other giants?
No, I don't think they run Capitol Hill. Maybe they team up with Big Strawberry. I don't know. I think the answer is, she doesn't enjoy masses of funding because, as we know, so much of the industry is driven by money, but there are individual, trials going on. So, one of the things which I find most fascinating, in our mood formulation, we have, perhaps our sort of hero ingredient is saffron.
Excellent. I'm so pleased we're going to talk about that. This is the one that I happen to have in my hand. Lovely, nice bit of Wellbeing pink splashed on that. So these are specific cocktails, if you like, of ingredients that is designed to kind of hack into different epigenetic pathways. Is that right?
Yeah, so the scientists have looked at how particular ingredients can help to regulate particular genes. So we have, genes and teams of genes associated with core functions like depression, like the immune system.
I can smell the crocus in this, the saffron.
Yeah, the mood pill does have a sort of crocusy sort of taste to it. So they've been looking at the research, the sort of nutrigenomics research, and seeing how can, what are the ingredients that can help regulate the genes that are critical to core function. So in the case of, our moods, serotonin is obviously hugely important. The happy hormone, and things like Prozac work on.
They work on that level, don't they? They're just.
It's all about serotonin.
Yeah.
And so the research shows that in the case of something like saffron, the active ingredients in it can reduce the expression, help regulate the serotonin transporter gene, 5-HTT or SERT it's sometimes called. So you have this kind of ingredient that's been used for thousands of years, particularly across the Persian Empire. And now we can apply that kind of modern epigenetics to see, okay, here's something like saffron, beautiful spice, very precious. But deep down on that molecular level, it's actually seemingly affecting some of the genes that regulate our serotonin. And likewise, it can impact our dopamine, which we know is a kind of another kind of crucial, sort of motivational almost. Right. So for me, it's absolutely fascinating to take these herbs, which have been, our go-to medicines, and different cultures around the world have different herbs, and then marry that a sort of ancient botanical wisdom with cutting-edge nutrigenomics to see what's happening on that all-important sort of gene and gene expression level.
This is such an exciting journey, and I hope that everybody, listening and joining us is equally excited and kind of can see the logical path. I remember first writing about saffron for my magazine. I am in an early issue, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, but there wasn't that genetic, certainly, component to the science, to the evidence. And then talking to people like Kenneth Levers, who's an amazing pharmacist at Naked Pharmacy, who uses saffron extracts, in high doses for helping things like ADD, ADHD with kids, spectrum disorders, depression, mood, all of that. Then for me personally and for my family, looking at the nutrigenomic testing and beginning to understand, what was influencing our lives and how we feel and how we perform. And then you come along and you kind of pull it all together. You're saying, right, yes, we're going to use, saffron, we're going to use passion flower. I'm looking at this formula here, which is extraordinary because it's got all our favourites, it's got all our heroes. B12, you're looking at the B vitamins, you're looking at magnesium. All these things that we know through having talked at length to so many different nutritionists and academics and researchers over the years here. And you're linking it all to the absolute fundamental core for all of us, which is epigenetics. So it's so exciting. I'm so thrilled that we are talking about this. I mean, some of the things in the mood formula, is this going to work for everybody? Because obviously, as we were saying before, we all have different genetic expressions and different little SNPs and variations. Is this something that is for everybody, or do we need to be selective?
So,
I'm going to take one, by the way.
Very good. Okay, and you'll be bouncing off the I'd say the ceiling, but you'd probably some sort of tropical landscape. But by the end of it,
I'll be bouncing off the palm trees. In fact,
so at this stage we are. There's the kind of nutrigenetics, rather than nutrigenomics, where you kind of look at someone's individual DNA. We are more interested in nutrigenomics, which are virtually all of us have, these genes, and these genes have an impact on, something like serotonin. Like we know there's there's a direct correlation between, serotonin and mood, or dopamine, or things like inflammation. Inflammation can be, as I'm sure you've explored, a driving factor around things like anxiety and depression.
Yeah.
So we're more interested in, so what are the kind of ingredients that can help regulate those processes that are common to virtually all of us. So yes, I think with these things you often have to take them for a good couple of months. But they do, this isn't obviously everyone's body's a bit different, but this isn't about your individual DNA. This is about what are the big processes that these amazing herbs can help influence.
Yeah.
And, I think what's really interesting as well is that, to sort of silence sometimes my sort of inner cynic, you think, like, I'm not against conventional medicine. And
sure, no, we need it. Is that for the A&E, definitely.
Yeah, I'm not sort of... I love my Bupa membership more than life itself. But I think what's really interesting is when you think about 40%, and some people say more, of modern pharma is derived from plants.
Sure.
So
exactly, it's all there.
We know that plants are incredibly powerful, and it makes sense because we have co-evolved with plants since 2 million years ago, when Homo erectus and then Homo sapiens sort of started roaming around. You know, we're part of that ecosystem with plants. So it makes sense that there are things in the plant kingdom that can help us. I think what Nutrigenomics does is it helps to pinpoint which plants can help us, and
which
for which
ones.
conditions.
And you know, we've got some real favourites, you know, and we'll go through. You've got 4 amazing different formulas here, but just looking at the mood formula, passion flower, which I have slumber drops at night. They're full of passion flower. It's just incredibly calming. There's again so much research in that. Saffron, which we've talked about, which is so useful for the dopamine, serotonin, mood support, supporting that whole kind of psychological function. And then putting in a little bit of magnesium. We've got your B12. We've got acerola cherry, something else we've talked about here. We've got lavender powder, interesting, oregano, zinc. Interesting question that's just come up actually on Instagram. I don't know if you saw it, Tim, just saying, can we have too much of something like B12? And I'm just looking here. Your levels are good, but they're not excessive. It's like 100% of the RDA, which, as we know, is pretty low. So I'd have no concern about taking this alongside my actual regular extras that I take, which I know I need.
So I guess we're deliberately not majoring on the vitamins.
No, it's a little bit.
We're about the botanics. And we say that, you know, on karmasis.com, on the FAQs, you can see we've got a little chart. I mean, broadly, you can tend to take it to, you know, I take, you know, mood and immunity at the moment. You can generally take about 2, sometimes 3. What I would say is I was taking immunity religiously and really enjoying particularly the sort of the reishi that's in there, which is incredibly powerful.
Yeah, reishi mushroom. Let's talk about that.
And then I ran out and I ordered some, but I managed to order it to send to the office by mistake. So I stopped taking it for a few weeks. And I'm not saying there's any correlation, but I then got COVID.
You then got COVID? Oh, sorry, there's a small plane going off overhead. Oh my goodness. So let that be a lesson to you.
I know. Fortunately, we've got energy pills, which got me through lockdown isolation. But I was like, I've got to get rid of this before I talk to Liz, or else I'm going to look like a real fraud.
Well, it can happen to the best of us, and I guess the key with all of that is how quickly you bounce back, and it's all about how our immune system can support recovery. And you know, we are obviously always going to be affected by viruses and coughs and colds and all the rest of it. So it's actually how we support it. So that brings us very neatly on, doesn't it, to immunity. So this is a different formulation. As you say, you take both together, so you take mood and your immunity.
Yes, I do. And just a sort of final thing on mood, actually. You know, talking to, you know, Dr. Uma, and, you know, the research that they've done shows that saffron in the right quantities and the right purity and concentration can be as effective as Prozac for mild to moderate depression. Which,
and I think we tend to forget that, you know, so much of modern medicine, and I don't want to kind of go off on a soapboxy tangent here, but they isolate bits of what's naturally occurring. So I was talking last week to a scientist about Nurofen, or I won't mention brand, sorry, take that back, ibuprofen, and saying that is an anti-inflammatory, and it just works on one very specific pathway. If you look, you know, if you track it in the kind of chemistry terms. And yet, if you look at saffron, how it works as an anti-inflammatory, it works in a much more kind of holistic, global way on multi-pathways. So you can actually use that as an anti-inflammatory, high doses of saffron, potentially to a possibly safer, equally, you know, successful outcome as using something like an anti-inflammatory like ibuprofen. But of course, you can only get a medical license and patent something if you isolate a little bit of it. But, you know, it's kind of proving that there is that medical activity. And you were saying with Prozac, you know, similarly, kids who are put on Ritalin, for example, a lot of that is to do with reducing or controlling the levels of copper and B6 in the brain, which you can do through nutritional therapy. or you can just kind of whack it where you numb everything else and you just isolate that one little bit. So, you know, it's a shame, isn't it, in a way that I guess our mainstream medics aren't more able to be better versed in nutritional therapies. But I know, you know, so much of their training and ongoing training that they get, not necessarily from medical school, but certainly when they're out in the real world working, you know, comes from pharmaceutical companies, and it's just not in their interest really to talk about this stuff, is it?
And absolutely, and you know, pharmaceuticals have a place, and absolutely.
Of course they do. I need my antibiotics if I've, you know, if I've got some.
And you know, and if you are on a pill, please don't just suddenly switch. Like coming off pills,
of course not.
Is incredibly fraught. You know, talk to someone, but it's quite not. I just think the botanics can be a sort of an extra string in the bow.
Well, they're supplements. You know, they're called supplements for a reason. They are supplementary. You know, they are supplementary food supplements because they're derived from food, and they supplement our life and supplement us for the better. Can we talk about the immunity blend?
Yes, absolutely. So, you know, again, reishi is one of these, you know, herbs that has, you know, it's been heralded, especially kind of in Eastern cultures, for hundreds of years, if not millennia. But again, once you drill down into this kind of sort of very rare mushroom that kind of not grows on a certain, you know, small minority of plants in particular forests, you know, which is why it's, you know, it's been so prized through history, and at one point was only was restricted to kind of royalty and nobility. Really?
You could have reishi mushroom. How interesting.
Once you drill down into that, you find that the phytochemicals in there have an immuno regulatory properties to it, you know, that as well as having antioxidant and antimicrobial properties, they you know, can help increase things like the activities of T cells and
that's so important.
The expression of the I'm just looking down because I want to mislead you, the signaling molecules that drive the immune system's inflammatory response, like IL-6, IL-10, IL-12. So, you know, again, it's like this beautiful sort of exotic mushroom fungus, rather, that's been, you know, coveted for throughout history. Through the lens of modern science, you can actually see how it's potentially impacting the immune system on that kind of very deep down level, you know, when it's affecting signaling molecules.
Isn't that fantastic that these professors and these academics that you're working with can drill down on a genetic level, as you say, looking at those signaling monitors going on in the body, and take something ancient like reishi mushroom and prove it?
Yes.
I mean, that's just a shot in the arm. I've just seen we've just been joined by Nature Doc, Lucinda Miller. She and I just recorded a podcast, actually, which I think you'd be fascinated to hear, on Friday, all about kids and long COVID and PANS and pandas, and what happens when our genes go haywire. And I mean, there's a lot to talk about with that. But, you know, she again is using a lot of, you know, gut health supplements and gut health support, and getting extraordinary results and being able to prove these things. And I know she does a lot with Nutrigenomics as well, because it just works. And when you're a practitioner and you're faced with sick kids and sick patients, you just want to get them well.
Yes, and this, you know, this is what Dr. Uma, you know, she, as well as doing her research and, you know, publishing a brilliant book, the Mood Connection, she, you know, she's a practicing scientist. She's got a clinic at Massachusetts General Hospital, and, you know, as part of her practice, weaves in, you know, nutrition. Again, it's like, it's a really
how amazing,
incredible arm to you know, to say to someone, you know, someone's going through a bad, you know, looking at their diet, suggesting nutrients, making changes, and, you know, as well as avoiding certain foods, as well as packing your, you know, your diet with them. So, you know, this is, you know, Dr. Uma is using this out there. You know, this is part of how she treats patients. Well,
your immunity formula, I've seen you've got good levels of vitamin D in there, and obviously we know that, you know, vitamin D is so protective, and people with high levels of vitamin D have better outcomes from COVID, for example. And then you've got your other fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin E in there, selenium, zinc, beta-carotene, green tea extract, reishi. I've not heard of this one, Amla berry. What is an Amla berry?
So yeah, Amla berries are sort of bigger in India, and again, it's sort of drawing on that Ayurvedic wisdom. You know, again, I tend to think, you know, there's a reason why certain things have stood the test of time.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
The traditional Chinese medicine or Ayurvedic, and you know, Amla is it's a bit of a sort of superstar in the Ayurvedic world.
Right.
And it's these green, they look sort of like gooseberries, and I think it's just great to be able, you know, and Dr. Uma herself is of Indian origin, just American, but
yeah,
you know, and it's great to be able to kind of weave in some of those sort of traditional herbs, spices, fruits that have been just part of traditional cultures for so long, and then put them under the kind of microscope.
I'm so fascinated by this. I should just say, actually, I know we've got two more that we're going to talk about, but I know a lot of people are heading over to your website already to take a look at all the research. You have very kindly given us 20% off with our Liz Loves, which is super kind, off all the single products, and 10% off the subscriptions, because presumably people, once they find them, want to come back and get more, which is good. That's always a good, you know, having been a brand founder myself, you know, it's all very well to sell something once, but when people want to come back and buy more and tell others, that's the real point of a good brand.
And I think with these, you know, the botanicals, it's, you know, it's not like, I mean, even traditional pills take happy pills can take a couple of weeks, but you know, it's, you know, a lot of the research shows that, you know, if you need about 2 months, you know, to really kind of experience, you know, these aren't quick fixes. This is about sort of building up, you know, the levels in your body. So, you know, which is why I think.
Although having said that, you know, Tim, when I've taken saffron, and I know certainly when I've given it to the younger members of my family, you know, the change is quite considerable. You know, it's only taken a few days, and I mean, I know you don't want to probably overclaim, but you know, in my experience, it does have a relatively fast work. We're being asked questions about what you can take together. So you're taking mood and immunity together.
Yes.
Seems like a pretty good combination for today's climate. Let's not feel quite so stressed out and depressed and anxious, and let's boost our immune system at the same time. So I would say that's a very good starting point. But you've got two more, which are also equally fascinating. One on relax, so a real calm me down, and the other energy, so presumably a bit of a pick me up. Should we start with energy? Should we start with a bit of an uplift? And this is something, again, which I think my community will be a little bit familiar with. A couple of things. Gotu Kola and Maca. Maca, I was having a conversation with I'm not sure whether it was a naturopath or a nutritionist, I can't remember exactly. But we were talking about how Maca improves libido in middle-aged women. So that was obviously clearly, and my audience definitely start to prick up their ears when we talked about that. So tell me from your point of view and your lovely, I mean, Professor Sebastiano, for example, at Stanford, who will have advised on this, why did you choose these herbs for energy?
Yeah, so you know, again, like Mac, but interestingly, saffron's meant to be good for men's erections as well. So,
is it really? Saffron? You would have thought it had the opposite effect if it's a calm me down. But maybe it just relaxes you into such a state that, you know, all other cares go out of the window.
Exactly. You're so calm you can get on with it. So Maca, there's a sort of interesting relationship between sort of Maca and sort of metabolism, which of course is kind of vital to you know, energy. And it looks like there's some sort of it helps to regulate the expression of genes in a signaling network, which is plays a kind of key role in our metabolism. So again, it's kind of getting down to that, you know, the signaling, the pathways, and as I said, like metabolism is key to energy.
Yeah. Okay.
And there've been studies. Again, you kind of drill down into the kind of core components, and there are sort of macamides within maca.
Macamides. Oh my goodness.
So, and it's thought that those are the active components within maca that sort of drive the energy boosting properties, and help to sort of regulate metabolism and energy.
Well, I can also see some other kind of favourite friends in here. Gotu kola, cayenne pepper, juniper, green tea, acerola cherries. Green tea is certainly something that I try and take after a workout, because it's supposed to help, with muscle function and fat burning and, keeping your metabolism boosted. And I could imagine that this gives a bit of a lift, almost an immediate lift, I would say, because Gotu Kola is kind of one of those instant, they used to put it into energy drinks, I don't know whether they still do, as having almost like a caffeine-like effect, but without any of the kind of the crash, the come down. It just kind of gives you that lift.
I think the energy one is much more immediate, actually. And yes, my COVID turnaround was pretty quick, so
Excellent. You were on this one, were you?
I swapped. Yeah, I was like, that'll teach me for forgetting immunity.
Yeah.
And cayenne's interesting. I remember doing some filming a while back for National Geographic at a chili contest in New Mexico, and
as you do.
And I had to down the second highest chili.
Oh no! What's that scale? What's that score?
Scoville scale.
The Scoville. Oh my goodness!
I had a drop of a tincture when you have to avoid putting it close to your lips and onto your tongue, and they told me after filming that previous years ambulances have been called to that festival.
Oh my goodness! I mean, that can just literally burn through your mucous membranes. I mean,
we don't go that strong. We just have a little bit of cayenne pepper, because there's that sense of you do get an endorphinous release.
Yeah.
From this stuff. And what's really interesting, talking to
people. Fancy one of these. Could I take one now? Could I take it on top of my mood, or is it going to counter? Sure. Is it going to counteract it?
No. It's all good, all complimentary.
Because we are 3 hours ahead here in Kenya, so it has been a long day already. So maybe I need this.
But I talked to quite a lot of people who had swapped drug addictions or alcohol addictions for chili.
Really?
Because they got that same sort of dopamine hit, the same endorphinous rush from using from a sort of chili high. So it's I'm not saying ours is quite on that part, but it's just a little sort of
a little lift. I love that.
Yeah.
A little natural herbal lift. And then I guess conversely, at the end of the day, or I mean, do you need to take this at the end of the day, or can you take it whenever? The relax formulation. I remember talking to Kevin again exactly about saffron, and he was saying that from their studies they show that because it links into the circadian rhythm, I guess this all plays into epigenetics, that taking it with breakfast actually meant you slept better because of just the way that the brain was processing it. So here you've got, again, unique ingredients. Oh my goodness, one of my all-time favourites, ashwagandha.
Yes.
I am on ashwagandha at the moment. It's an extraordinary plant. Why have you put it into the relax formula?
Again, it's like this is another Ayurvedic classic, and in Sanskrit, ashwagandha sort of roughly means smell of horse, but it's
smell of horse.
But I think it's more to do with the less to do with the smell, but it's more to do with the ability to impart the vitality of a stallion, I believe.
Right. Okay. We're back to the old maca route then, aren't we?
Yeah. I mean, your viewers are going to be.
I mean, we're just going to be so buzzing.
They're going to be logging off soon and procreating. But yeah, again, like ashwagandha is. A lot of studies have shown it can have an impact on anxiety and stress.
Well, it's the adaptogenic nature of it, isn't it? So it either can help to soothe and relax and to encourage a deeper sleep, or it can kind of give you a little bit of a lift and calm those cortisol levels. So it is an extraordinary herb, and you've got a decent amount of it here, which is
no, and it's and it's the kind of the best available. There's ashwagandha that isn't great, and there's ashwagandha that's
and there's absolutely
yeah.
I've just written about that actually.
We've got the proper stuff, and again,
the proper one. Good.
Ashwagandha has been shown to prevent the expression of CCL2 and CCL5 genes, which can involve in the kind of inflammatory response, and as we know, that inflammation is a known factor in stress and anxiety. So it's also being researched now as a kind of complementary therapy, as you were saying, for COVID.
Much. I mean, if you all you have to do is go onto PubMed and type the word ashwagandha, and you just get blown away by the the clinical data, particularly coming out of Asian universities and research establishments.
Yes.
Somebody's asking here about whether you can take it with thyroxine. I remember having this big conversation specifically on ashwagandha, and there didn't seem to be any contraindications at all. But I just think with anybody who's under any kind of medication, you should always run it by your GP. Or if they're overstressed, there are lots of websites actually where you can look up, put in the name of a drug, and just type in contraindication, and it'll give you information on that.
Yes, and as you were saying, like the joy of some of these herbs is they work on multiple pathways. Yeah. So again, like there's going back to saffron, there's some research showing it's good with PMT as well.
Yeah, I can just see somebody's commented with that on Instagram. Yeah.
Right, and ashwagandha. Seems to have sort of rejuvenating.
It's in a lot of menopause formulas. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of kind of selling supplements for menopause, but I mean, I think they can be useful alongside, as long as you get your hormones sorted out, because that's kind of bottom line. Then you can add in other useful things, and I certainly feel better for taking ashwagandha.
Yes, yes. No, I tend to take it at night more, because I sometimes have been prone. I can wake up in the middle of the night. I can sleep for a couple of hours, and wake up, and my mind's sort of regurgitating stresses. So I tend to take it.
So you take the relaxed formula then to help you sleep, do you?
Yeah. So I take relax in the evening to kind of get me through the night, and then I guess mood in the morning to get me firing.
But you've also got magnesium in here. I mean, magnesium is a real common thread that runs throughout, which is so interesting because we know it's implicated in so many functions, and in the UK we seem to be so deficient, and our levels dropping so much through so many things, food processing, modern farming, etc.
No, I mean, Dr. Uma's been very big on magnesium. I think magnesium it's been a bit underrated.
Yeah, all my kids are on magnesium now.
With our mental health.
Absolutely.
And again, like with COVID, my nutritionist said zinc, magnesium, vitamin C, get all that in. So I think I have a feeling that magnesium will become an even bigger. I think it will break through.
It's been almost like a kind of Cinderella nutrient, hasn't it? We've just kind of ignored it. It's been this mineral that's like, well, magnesium, whatever. Interesting that you're using zinc across the board as well, which is really interesting because we know that we need that for COVID recovery as well. And then something here which I'm not too familiar with, which is, I'm just looking at my list here, California poppy. And you've got turmeric as well. So anti-inflammatories, but I'm not too sure about California poppy.
California poppy, it's been used by Native American tribes for again, however long, and it's part of that sort of thing of like, it seems to have sort of relaxing qualities, soothing, and it's so nice to be able to kind of say, okay, we can take a bit from Ayurveda, a bit from traditional Chinese medicine.
I love all that
a bit from the Persian culture, a bit from Native American.
Yeah, you cherry pick the best.
Yeah, and acerola cherry, so which is great for vitamin C. But and then the turmeric is, it does. I guess increasingly, it's a serious spice, particularly when paired with black pepper. and can really kind of help on a lot of levels. I mean, one of the interesting things you were saying before was about, you know, drugs operating on one pathway. One scientist explained to me that because drugs are going through kind of single pathways, that pathway can become, the body can kind of react to that over time, and that's when kind of drug resistance can sort of, you know, things like you might find, oh, it doesn't work as well for me as it used to, this pill, because it's going through a sort of single pathway, and that path, the body can react to that, whereas herbs going through multiple pathways, but also at a slightly lower level than a drug, so it's not causing this sort of bodily backlash. I hope I haven't completely misexplained that, because herbs don't seem to sort of, you don't, as he explained it to me, you don't get resistance to the herbs like you would to medicines over time. But yeah, no, turmeric. We've got turmeric in mood and relax.
Yeah, it's an amazing herb spice. I don't know kind of which category it falls into technically.
Yes, and it's easier. I find if I make a turmeric latte at home, I have the kind of orange skin.
Yes.
Everything's stained. It looks like a kind of.
Oh my goodness! I was juicing turmeric roots the other day, and you just got to be so careful. Everything ends up bright orange. Had bright orange nails. I mean, it was just ridiculous.
Yes. Yeah. It looks like you've been mainlining Sunny D. Back in the day,
back in the day, yeah, that ages us definitely. That we know what that thing is even.
But no, so it's nice for me. It's great to be able to get that kind of turmeric and black pepper without having to routinely turn my hands orange.
Yeah, no, it really. I'm just, as I say, it's just very timely that all of this is being pulled together. I think because we're beginning to hear more and more about epigenetics, we're hearing more and more about the personalization of genetic expression, and these herbs and nutrients are the same ones that just keep coming up time and time again in the literature. You know, the vitamin D3, the magnesium, the ashwagandha, the zinc, the turmeric, the saffron. You know, I mean, they're just all there, and the reason for that is because they flipping well work.
Yeah, and it's great to apply this sort of nascent science and our kind of Ivy League scientists to say, and this is what's happening, you know?
Yeah.
Rather than intuitively say, we know that they work. Like,
why absolutely. And not just sort of, you know, expressing it in a petri dish or however they used to kind of analyse things, but looking at it on a genetic level. Looking at the genome and actually being able to break it down and see that genetic expression and see how these herbs and plants are interacting. It's so fascinating. I kind of want to keep chatting about it all for the rest of the day, but I'm going to have to let you go, I think. But just to say, we are going to be doing a couple of podcast recordings together, aren't we? Which is very exciting.
We are, yes.
So we can continue the conversation.
We're guesting on each other's podcasts. So
yeah.
We've done Carmsys has sponsored a show called Brilliant Brains, where we're talking to some of the kind of most fascinating thinkers and wellness experts out there. So, you know, for Robin Sharma, the monk who sold his Ferrari, is on this week.
You've had some, Dr. David Sinclair, who's kind of like the aging guru in Harvard.
Yes, in Harvard. The chef Otter Lange, author Fatima Bhutto.
My old friend Monty Don.
Yes.
Yeah, talking about mental health.
Yeah, he was such an interesting, brilliant, beautiful speaker about the sort of power of nature.
Yes.
So you'll be our Brilliant Brains guest, and I'll be.
Oh my goodness.
I'll be on your show.
Yes, and you will be the brilliant. Yeah, no, it'd be very interesting to pick each other's brains on different topics, and there's just so much overlap. It's just brilliant. And Carmsys is pretty new, isn't it? How long have you been going?
Yeah, we are. We literally we popped out in December. So
wow.
We've been in research for a long time.
Yeah.
So yeah, we are new, which is why it's great to.
Yeah.
Speak to you and your
it's
audience.
lovely.
You know,
it's great to hear.
I would say that we are. Everything is 100% recyclable, which has been a real mission.
Really important.
Vegan.
All plant-based.
all
so
plant-based.
your botanicals are obviously plant-based.
No synthetic fillers, nothing.
No
crap
fillers.
in there.
Yeah.
And we're made in the UK as well.
Great. Well, that's what we
So,
like.
we
We
are.
like supporting great British brands and talking directly to great brand founders. And lots more information, obviously, on your website. And
Yes,
can
on
people look up FAQs and can kind of email in, can they, if they've got particular
Absolutely, yes.
questions?
It's karmassist.com, so Karma Pharmacist, karmassist.com.
Very clever.
And we are, we're still at the stage where we'd love to hear what everyone thinks. And
Yeah.
we're
Oh,
open to
don't worry,
feedback.
you'll get feedback. Got a lovely vocal community who love to share and love to experience it. So, and I will too. I will be feeding back because I have for my travels. I have all 4 here. So I'm going to be away for a wee while. So I'm going to be taking them with me.
Excellent. You'll be happy, relaxed, full of energy, and bursting with immunity.
It's just the dream, isn't it? Really. So thank you. Well, I hope you continue to recover fully and feel full of beans yourself.
Yeah, no, I'm back. So
Good.
I'm back. But thank you. It's been a real honour. So thank you.
No,
Yes.
great pleasure. I'm absolutely thrilled that we can just kind of continue these whole conversations and just talk about things that are so evidence-based and helpful, and just kind of cut through so much of the faff of wellness into the real stuff that's that is really evidence-based, because that's what it's all about always.
Exactly.
But thank you, and we'll connect again. We'll be
Yes.
talking again. I'm in touch with your team about our recordings and looking forward to that. So thank you.
Okay, yeah. See you for some podcasts soon.
Yeah, podcast soon. Thanks, Tim.
Perfect.
Thank you. Go
Thanks,
well.
Liz. Thanks everyone for tuning in.
Thank you. Now you're going to have to leave me, honey, because if I click off, I lose everybody.
Okay, well,
So,
I'll say
I'll
goodbye.
say bye.
Cheerio.
Bye-bye. Oh my goodness, wasn't that just so fascinating? And because you've been with me now, most of you, for gosh, nearly 2 years, isn't it? I have to have an anniversary. I have to work out when my very first Instagram live was. I have to look back in my diary so that we can have kind of like an online party. But I do first remember talking about some of these beginnings, just the beginning of epigenetics, and let's talk about this weird thing called ashwagandha, or let's have a conversation about turmeric or saffron or magnesium or D3 or zinc, and then you get people like Tim who come along and who've pulled all that information together with these amazing scientists. And I've been loving their blogs, actually. If you want to go to their website, karmassist.com, and have a look, as Tim says. So 2 really interesting medics. There was Dr. Uma Naidu, who's the nutritional psychiatrist who's at Harvard. And then you've got Professor Vittorio Sebastiano. I imagine that he might be Italian, like my ex-husband, so it's probably slightly volatile, but there we go, we don't talk about that, who is an epigeneticist at Stanford, so Stanford professor. So this is serious stuff, and it was fascinating, wasn't it, Tim, talking about his early background, and when you have been working in very stressful environments, and working for mainstream media as well, BBC, looking at data and looking at evidence and making sure that what you're saying hopefully is credible and true. So fascinating. And as I said earlier, we have a very generous 20% off Liz Love. So let me know, won't you, if you guys are going to be ordering, what you're going to try. Interesting to know what to start with. I guess, you've probably got your own decisions or own kind of inclinations as to what you feel inclined towards. But mood, I would say, we could all do perhaps with regulating and improving mood and mind. And this is the one with the passion flower and the saffron. Really fascinating. Again, with the magnesium and the B and all the rest of it. And immunity. Yeah, clearly immunity. That is, and this is the one with the reishi mushroom. And this thing that I'd never heard of, the amla berry. I'm going to have to go and do some more research, aren't I? Reishi mushroom and amla berry, targeted to support immune function. And, oh, that's the buzzer. I hope that guy's got somebody who's going to open the gate. And then these 2, relax. So if anybody who's got sleep issues at the moment, I think this could be really interesting. California poppy and the ashwagandha. Ashwagandha, seriously, is a herb that I'm going to be taking, I think, forever now, one way or another. And then energy. So hopefully I'm going to be full of beans now. I've just popped an energy one. So that's the Go-To Cola and the Maca to support vitality. So yeah, Liz Loves, all one word, all in capitals, gives you 20% off if you want to try on the single products. And then of course you can take out a subscription. You get 10% off the discounted subscriptions. But you know, maybe start with your one-offs to see how you go. Now, if you were interested in drilling into your Nutrigenomics, I should say that this is the report that I did, and I actually bought it one Christmas for all the members of my family. This is the Nutrient Core report, and do take a look. We've got it saved up on YouTube, on Facebook, obviously. And these show the little genetic variances that I have, the SNPs, the red, the green, and the yellow. The red one, which was a bit scary, if I can find my red, just to show you that even if you come up red, it's no big deal because you can do something about it. That was my glutathione expression gene, which was somewhat lacking. So we do have a special deal with Life Code GX. So normally you have to go through a practitioner, you have to pay for the consultation, etc. We've got a special deal where you can get that online with a free 30-minute consultation with one of their practitioners and a discount. Oh, Joan, you've just sent your sample to Life Code GX. Well done. So that we do have that. It's a special price and it's the 15% off, but it's only until the last. Oh dear, they've logged me out. They've logged me out. This has happened before, hasn't it? I'm wondering whether it's to do with the time. Yeah, I've been logged right out of Instagram. Log into existing account. Okay, do you know what? I think we're just about there, so I'm not going to do that. I know that a lot of people on Instagram will be coming over to Facebook and to YouTube, and I'm just about wrapping up now anyway. So I'm not going to go through the whole rigmarole of logging back in. I'm wondering whether it's because it was over an hour. Do you think? Because it was quite a long one. Maybe I'm going to have to get my team to look into that. But anyway, just to say that the Life Code GX, if you're interested, is only available now for this month. It runs out at the end of February. Can't believe we're in February already, but we are if you're watching this in real time and not on catch-up. So do be quick. I know that, is it Rachel or Lainey who's on Facebook today? Thank you. You did put a code up with the link. So if people... Yeah, do you think we only get an hour on Insta, Laura? That's really interesting. I'm going to have to bear that in mind. I'm just going to have to be more disciplined, aren't I, with my timekeeping. Otherwise it's going to chuck me out. But I think we can ramble on forever pretty much here on Facebook and YouTube. But I will let you go because I know that we've got life to get on with, haven't we? And if you want to know more, obviously there's lots more on Liz Earle Wellbeing website. Got the Liz Earle Wellbeing magazine. Very, very few left now for the subscriber offers. If you haven't yet got your copy of Liz Earle Wellbeing magazine and you'd like to get that amazing overnight hair treatment from the great British hairdresser Michael Van Clark, then that's the Deep Sleep Overnight Treatment, which is worth £32.50, and you get it completely free with your subscription to the magazine. Now you can either have that for yourself or you can give it as a gift subscription. You just need to let the people at Warner's know where you want the gift sent to, whether you want it sent to yourself or whether you want it sent to the recipient of the magazine. I'm going to be doing some baking later on. I'm actually going to be using some of the recipes here. These are great bakes. Let me know if anybody's tried these. Post-workout bakes. You can find them on page 90 of the magazine. The banana, peanut butter and oat cookies, I have to say, are epic. So that's going to be being made this afternoon. And they've also got here on the following pages, there's the almond flour and chia seed loaf, as well as the breakfast muffins. And my light's just gone off as well. So there you go. This is a sign that I need to shut up and let you all get on with other things. But very nice to be with you. Thank you for being with me. I hope you've enjoyed that. Really interesting. Don't forget to go and check out Calm Assist and everything that Tim was talking about. I'm certainly going to be looking much more deeply into all these epigenetically herbs and nutrients. I shall say goodbye for now, and I'm back with you on Thursday. So we've switched our days around. We've gone from Monday to Wednesday. We're now Tuesday to Thursday. Okay, so Thursday, and I'm going to be back with another favourite, Katie Brindle from Hey You. And we are going to be talking all about her gua sha and her qigong and all sorts of things. Really amazing. It's going to be really good stuff. Thank you very much for saying, Claire. Lovely. Thank you. Very nice to be with you. I shall see you again very soon. Pop a comment below if you'd like to chat about anything we've talked about today, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.